So if the Supreme Court does overturn Roe v. Wade, states will have the authority to implement their own abortion legislation. Some already have so-called trigger laws on the books. So Sarah Ewall-Wice is in Washington now to explain these measures. So Sarah, thanks for joining us. Part of the reason that pro-abortion rights activists are so concerned is because, you know, as soon as the Supreme Court issues its opinion, and should it be to overturn Roe v. Wade, things could change in a good swath of the country almost immediately. Not only are there already some laws on the books that are sort of being implemented, but there are laws waiting in the wings, if you will. Can you explain trigger laws?
Yes. So 13 states across the country already have the so-called trigger laws in the books. That means bans or severe restrictions would almost immediately kick in those states when the Supreme Court issues its ruling, if it is to overturn Roe versus Wade. And, you know, it's kind of tricky. It depends specifically on the state you're looking at. Some of them, the language says immediately after it is overturned. Other ones have a 30-day waiting period. A few include certification processes, but looking at the states that have them, they have Republicans in control in those states. So we're thinking that could take just a number of days when I speak to legal experts, if not hours after the ruling is issued. So that is where we are with trigger laws. Interestingly enough, Nebraska actually tried to pass a trigger law just this year. It narrowly failed in the state Senate there. So that is one state that does not have one, but had tried just weeks ago to do so.
Wow, that's interesting. You know, you heard the president say that if Roe v. Wade is overturned, you know, it could have implications beyond abortion rights. He mentioned same-sex marriage. Can you talk a little bit more about what kinds of restrictions, you know, we could see if the court overturns Roe v. Wade?
So I think what we're really looking at is how exactly that opinion is tailored. Obviously, if we see Roe versus Wade overturned, we have those trigger laws in the books. Other states have bans that were pre-Roe. There's also states that have bans that are abortion bans at 6 weeks. Some are at 8 weeks. But the thing that I've seen that people have been questioning, those who are concerned about this law being overturned, is this a slippery slope? Is this going to be narrowly tailored, or would this set precedents where other precedents at the Supreme Court level could be rolled back? And we did see that specifically with the Supreme Court justices, or excuse me, the Supreme Court justice confirmation more recently for the Biden's nominee, where some Republicans were asking her questions about some of these other cases, not just Roe versus Wade, and that raised questions about whether contraception would come into question, the right to contraception, the right to privacy. Of course, the gay marriage rights would be were brought up during those hearings, which makes you think that maybe some Republicans at different levels across the government are looking at these based on how the Supreme Court rules in this specific case.
Right, and we should say that, you know, the opinion that was leaked, Justice Alito tries to address that, and he says, you know, abortion is completely different than these other situations, but we will see, obviously, it's a concern for many people.
Exactly.
You covered an event last night where Vice President Kamala Harris slammed the draft opinion. I want to play a little of what she had to say.
If the court overturns Roe v. Wade, it will be a direct assault on freedom, on the fundamental right of self-determination to which all Americans are entitled.
So now we're talking a little bit about the political fallout of this leak. Ed O'Keefe kind of alluded to that a little bit with his story. Could this galvanize the Democratic base come this November?
Yes, officials I spoke to yesterday definitely do believe that this could be a rallying cry for Democrats. One group in particular that has been a real focus heading up into this midterm election cycle are women, specifically in suburban areas. And in most polls, they show that these women are in support of having abortion rights in their states or not overturning Roe versus Wade, depending on what polls you look at, but the majority in either case. Something to keep in mind here is, just as we talk about this politically, we have a long way to go between now and November. So many things could happen, but officials do believe that this will galvanize the Democratic base. I will say last night at the event, there was a lot of energy in the room. It was hosted by Emily's List, which is a group that works to elect women who will support pro-abortion rights women and candidates across the country. So a lot of energy there. This is one issue that they're obviously extremely focused on. But we had talked about enthusiasm, whether Democrats have it leading up into the midterms. This was one event where I felt there was much more energy and a lot more focus and fire on this issue than I had felt there have been at previous campaign events I've seen over the course of the past few months post the 2020 cycle.
All right, Sarah, very interesting stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So listen, if you want to read Sarah's full article, head on over to CBSNews.com. She takes an in-depth look at what will happen if if Roe v. Wade is overturned.